Next, dorms up in flames. We'll show you the fire crews battled overnight and the meaning of friendship. We'll introduce you to two men who are willing to do anything for each other, even if that means giving up a kidney. Plus, President Trump speaking out about DACA. We'll tell you what he's saying.
Live from KMVT, your source for local news. This is Local 11 News at 10.
A scary moment at Idaho State University after a fire broke out in the dorms. Thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Amy Reid. Today, crews were making sure the fire didn't rekindle and that carbon monoxide and all fire gases were gone. This all after a great rescue by fire crews. Here's Misty Inglet.
When the fire alarms at Schubert Heights student apartment started going off, some students didn't know what to think. Several thought it was a drill until they realized it was all real and a fire had broke out on the 4th floor.
As I was running out, I saw another student that looked kind of frantic, and I asked him what happened, and he said that he was cooking and something went wrong. And I was like, did you try putting it out? He said no, because he panicked. And so I said, well, let's go back up and we'll put it out because every kitchen has a fire extinguisher. By the time I reached the floor that it first started, the whole floor was up in flames, and I turned back around and I said, we need to get it out of this building because it's not safe anymore. And I yelled that it wasn't a drill and that everybody needs to get out.
The fire alarm went off, and we've had drills before, so we were just kind of like, you know, whatever. And then we heard screaming and people are running down from the 4th floor. And so then when we got out, all we could see was black smoke flying out the windows. I think one of the scariest parts was like you could hear glass shattering from the heat and like all the screams.
Students were escorted back inside for a couple of hours to grab as many of their belongings as they could and whatever was still intact.
When we first walked in, it's completely black. The lights are like melted from the ceiling, and like there's pieces of ceiling, burnt ceiling, all covering the ground. And then when we got into our room, everything looked fine at first, but when we started grabbing our stuff, there was like ash everywhere.
Now, in other regional news, Idaho State Police released the name of the woman who was killed in a crash this weekend on I-15. They said Brittany Stenger of Idaho Falls drove off the shoulder of the interstate before swerving back onto the freeway and rolling onto the other side, getting ejected from the SUV. Police say alcohol was involved. She was the only person in the car. It's time for this week's Most Wanted. Twin Falls County is looking for Luis Castro Montelongo. He's wanted for eluding a police officer and resisting and obstructing. He's 5'5", 125 pounds. He has brown hair and brown eyes. If you have any information about Castro Montelongo, call Crime Stoppers. Their number is 343-COPS. That's 343-2677. You can also submit a tip online, 343cops.com, or download the P3 Tips app on your phone. As always, you can remain anonymous and may be eligible for a cash reward. Now for a travel alert. Winds could be dangerous tomorrow, especially in big trucks. Crystal's here to break down that danger a little more. Crystal.
Yes, Amy, we do have some wind advisories that is currently in effect. We do have a wind advisory for Twin Falls County up to Jerome County and also Gooding County, and that goes in effect tomorrow morning, early tomorrow morning through the evening hours. Sustained winds 30 to 40 miles per hour and also gusts upwards to 50 miles per hour. So that will make for difficult driving if you are traveling in lighter loads or even in high profile vehicles. Definitely something to keep in mind. Also out in the Minnecasia region, should shown down to Minidoka and Burley and Oakley. We do have a high wind watch that will go in effect tomorrow as well, 35 to 45 mile per hour and gusts upwards to 60, especially with those crosswinds. That's something to be aware of for tomorrow. Amy?
Thanks, Crystal. A Ketchum native and his family are asking for help after he fell 1,000 feet in Jackson Hole earlier this week. This is the GoFundMe page for Bryce Newcomb. He was hiking in Jackson Hole on Tuesday when a cornice broke beneath him and he fell 1,000 feet. He's still in critical condition in the hospital in Idaho Falls, but the page says he'll be transferred soon. And his family needs help with medical bills. Already in 3 days, the page is about halfway to the goal, more than $56,000 of the $100,000 that they want. How far will you go for your best friend? Well, a Twin Falls man is raising the stakes for friends everywhere. After learning his best friend has kidney issues, he volunteered to donate one of his own. Ricardo Coronado caught up with one of the best friends.
Vera and Frank.
On occasions, you can find Chris Mailer throwing darts. But on Saturday, it was just more than hitting a bullseye.
Dart tournament for my best friend, Jeremy. He's going through kidney issues right now. He's on dialysis.
Jeremy Wynn is diagnosed with stage 5 kidney failure. A friendship for 18 years, there was no doubt in Mailer's mind he would do anything for his best friend.
I was the first one that got tested, and once I got tested and found out that I was a match, there was really no question after that I was going to be the donor to donate.
Both Mailer and Wynn met at the Army National Guard, and since then, they've been inseparable.
When we were in the military, they always knew where to find us, because if they found one, they knew the other one was there.
The proceeds will help with the expenses, and for Jeremy Wynn, he feels blessed to have a friend like Mailer.
I felt honored, actually. It's not something you can repay somebody with.
He tells me he's grateful for the support.
I wasn't really sure what was going on or how to deal with it, but, you know, I have a pretty good support structure, and that's been a big, huge help.
For now, both of them take it day by day.
With this guy, he's my best friend, and there really isn't anything I wouldn't do for him.
KMET News.
In faith news, LDS General Conference continued today. In it, church leadership announced a few changes. In last night's session, they announced they'll combine 2 priesthood distinctions to 1, and today they announced home and visiting teaching will become ministering, which will come with a new approach. Also, 7 new temples around the world, 1 in Utah, 1 in Russia. 80 volunteer hours a week. That's what one local doctor put in to help those affected by Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. Michaela Leung has her story.
My life will never be the same.
Dr. Myra Rodriguez was supposed to relocate to Idaho Falls to work at Mountain View Hospital in September. But then tragedy struck when Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico.
My parents were on the island vacationing from New York City, and I had no idea if they were dead or alive for a week. And it took much longer than that for me to hear their voices. I actually did not hear my dad or talk to my dad until I arrived on the island to get them out.
Thankfully, she was reunited with her parents, but she felt like she needed to do more.
I came back to New York and I said, I've got to do something. I'm a physician with a lot of connections, and a lot of my doctor friends said, we'll help you. So we started a nonprofit.
Dr. Rodriguez and fellow doctors started Commit to PR to help those in need.
When you go and there are families living with no roofs, families that still don't have potable water, drinking water, still don't have electricity, and there seems to be no urgency about the matter, then you, as a physician, should feel an obligation.
She says it feels great to help a country that she considers a second home.
It feels wonderful. The town in particular that I'm helping is a town where my grandmother was born. It's the town where my father grew up. It's a town that I learned how to ride a bike in. It's the town that gave me a childhood.
In Idaho Falls, I'm Michaela Leung.
In national news, someone threw red paint all over the entrance sign for the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. Crews spent the morning cleaning up the vandalism. The golf club sits less than 5 miles from Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. The Secret Service is investigating the incident. President Trump unleashed a flurry of tweets this Easter Sunday attacking DACA in Mexico. As CBS News' Laura Podesta reports, the statements came after an unverified report that hundreds of Central American immigrants were coming by the busload into the U.S. illegally.
Before heading into church this Easter Sunday, President Trump tweeted that the immigration situation is getting more dangerous and caravans are coming. He offered no information to back up his claims, but said the U.S. needs help from Mexico, or else he'd cut the country out of NAFTA, the trade agreement signed by the U.S., Canada, and Mexico.
Mexico has got to help us at the border. If they're not going to help us at the border, it's a very sad thing between two countries.
The president also threatened DACA, which stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It allows children of immigrants who entered the U.S. illegally to apply to stay and work. On Twitter, the president wrote, Republicans must go to nuclear option to pass tough laws now. No more DACA deal. Outside the church, he added,
A lot of people are coming in because they want to take advantage of DACA. And we're going to have to really see. They had a great chance. The Democrats blew it.
Advocates for DACA, like Ralph Arianes, claim the majority of the country supports the program.
Over 85% of Americans want a permanent solution for DACA students.
It's unclear why the president chose Easter Sunday to talk about immigration policy. Some believe it's because Congress agreed to spend only $1.6 billion on a border wall.
It's going to be a political issue come this fall, and I think he's sort of trying to set the groundwork that he wants to move forward as hard as he can on tougher immigration.
Midterm elections are approaching, and the border wall was one of Mr. Trump's biggest campaign promises. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
This may not be your typical gun rights rally. Protesters in Vermont handed out high-capacity magazines. This was just a part of what they were doing, though. They gathered at the State House to speak out against a gun control bill Vermont's governor said he'll sign. It includes a ban on bump stocks, limits the size of magazines, background check expansions, and raising the purchasing age. There are exceptions for law enforcement, military, and already trained gun owners. It still needs the governor's signature. Conservative commentator Laura Ingraham is taking a break from her Fox News show for a week's vacation. She made the announcement when she signed off Friday evening, calling it an Easter break with her kids. Ingraham has had a tumultuous week. Her show, The Ingraham Angle, lost more than a dozen advertisers. The host sent a tweet mocking a Parkland student who had become a voice for gun control. He then urged his Twitter followers to contact Ingraham's advertisers. Ingraham apologized Thursday, but it didn't stop some advertisers from abandoning her show. A Fox News spokesperson said the week-long absence was pre-planned. Coming up, it's that time of year to start getting work done on the house, but one agency has a warning. Find out what they want you to know. It could end up saving you thousands. Later, now one of the Magic Valley's largest employers is keeping data safe.